Workers at Target have a reason to celebrate. We'll tell you the big change the popular retailer announced today.
Plus, the Gainesville City Commission race may come down to a battle between a pastor and an Uber driver. We bring the latest to you. First at 5 starts now.
First at 5. From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
Welcome to First at 5. I'm Ethan Curtis.
And I'm Daniella Sevares. Thanks for joining us. We begin with local news. A city commissioner in Gainesville is about to run for mayor, opening up the District 3 seat. 2 men want the position and say they have the remedies to cure the needs in Gainesville.
WUFT's Kendall Brandt spent time with the 2 candidates. Kendall, we understand these candidates have no background working in politics. Is that true?
That is right, Daniella and Ethan. The 2 informally announced their candidacy for the seat in the district that they call home.
One preaches to his congregation, another helps people get around town. Both announced their plan to be the next commissioner of Gainesville District 3.
But Jesus is with the disciples and he's...
Mike Raburn is the pastor of Gainesville Vineyard Church in the east side of the city.
There have been a number of incidents where folks in the neighborhood, Suburban Heights, which we live on the backside of, they've had concerns that they've taken to the city commission, and the city commission hasn't listened to them.
He believes his experience in theological ethics and community involvement will provide new perspective.
I'm bringing to the table both of my experience for the last 10 years as a pastor of literally bringing people to the table together and getting them to form community.
Patrick Engel believes his understanding of computer engineering will aid in problem solving.
This is why one of the reasons why I entered the race here is I'm a good debugger and fixer.
He says his job as an Uber driver helped him hear concerns in the community.
Having the right people on the dais is also important, because you don't want to put people that are going to always fight and argue and disagree and say it's my way or a highway like that. You're not going to get anything done like we have had in the last 8 years.
Both have concerns about overdevelopment and affordable housing.
The most passionate thing is affordable housing. And I go and extend on that, it's affordable income-based housing.
The city commission needs to be focused on that, on quality, attainable housing for everyone who wants to live in Gainesville and make Gainesville their home.
Neither have a background in politics. Both hope to gain experience through serving citizens in District 3.
There is still time to qualify if you decide you want to run in this election. Qualifying is open for this race from June 13th through the 17th. Voters head to the polls August 23rd.
A University of Florida Ukrainian student fears for her family back home. Ukraine currently remains in control of the capital of Kyiv as they brace for military pushback from Russia. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has put nuclear forces on high alert as tensions between the countries rise. 0.3% of Gainesville's population is from Ukraine. A UF business student, Anastasia Seitsiva from Ukraine, worries for the safety of her friends and family.
I don't want people to die, and peace is always the best idea for Ukraine, but at this point it's a war for freedom, and it's very important for Ukraine not to be under Russia, not to be slaves of Russian President Putin.
Multiple economic sanctions have been placed against Russia by various countries, including the United States. Peace talks between Ukraine and Russia took place earlier this morning.
Rainy Florida afternoons are back after a week of sunny skies.
WUFT's Julia Haley joins us now with the weather forecast.
We started out with a gloomy Monday morning, and it looks like that gloomy nature will stay just a little bit longer as these overcast skies persist. Currently 57 degrees with those rains being consistent throughout the day. Of course, those northeasterly winds pretty present as of right now. Catching in our satellite and radar, we can see these clouds and rain developing just a little bit east of I-95 in Orlando and Jacksonville as well. On to our future track, seeing that rain persist throughout the rest of the night, but spotty throughout Lake City and Gainesville. Overall, looks like it should be dissipating throughout the evening and into the morning. On to our hour by hour, seeing those partly cloudy skies and overcast skies stay as those temperatures drop from the upper 50s to the lower 50s. Overall, looks like that rain will dissipate throughout the night. Back to you.
A rally was held in NYC honoring Trayvon Martin this weekend. On the 10th anniversary of Trayvon Martin's death, his mother told families on Saturday, "Don't give up the fight for justice." Sabrina Fulton joined Reverend Al Sharpton and New York Mayor Eric Adams as the city commemorated the anniversary. The 17-year-old was visiting his father in Sanford when he was shot to death during a fight with Neighborhood Watch volunteer George Zimmerman. Martin was not armed. Zimmerman was later acquitted during a jury trial.
Workers of some Target stores could be paid up to $24 an hour. The discount retailer will adopt minimum wages from $15 to $24 an hour. Currently, the Minneapolis-based company starts workers at $15 an hour. The new wages will apply to stores and distribution centers with larger markets like New York, potentially seeing those higher wages this year. Increases will cost the company an additional $300 million. Healthcare is also expected to be expanded. Now onto some major news out of Major League Baseball. Derek Jeter is stepping down as CEO of the Miami Marlins. The Hall of Famer and New York Yankees legend announced the move today just 5 years after joining the team's front office. Jeter also plans to sell his stake of the franchise. In a statement today, Jeter wrote, "The vision for the future of the franchise is different than the one I signed up to lead." MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred issued a statement himself thanking Jeter for his efforts in Miami and said, "Derek is a pillar of our game and we look forward to his future contributions to baseball." The Marlins made the postseason just once during his tenure, a wild card spot in 2020. The announcement comes on a big day for baseball's lockout. The owners have said the players' union needs to agree on a new collective bargaining agreement by the end of the day today in order to avoid canceling regular season games. More on this in sports.
On the eve of his State of the Union address, President Biden is meeting with his national security team to address the growing crisis in Ukraine.
Unprecedented sanctions have already been imposed and more are on the table. Coming up on WFT News First at 5, we'll give you the latest updates regarding the situation in Ukraine. That's after the break.
You're watching WUFT TV News.
As global tensions escalate over the war in Ukraine and Russia's president references his nuclear arsenal, President Biden says Americans do not need to worry about nuclear war. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.
Today in the Ukraine crisis, destruction and diplomacy. Ukrainian officials pushing for a ceasefire in talks with a Russian delegation, though making little headway today. Here in Washington, President Biden speaking with top allies and his national security team. That after rolling out tougher sanctions against Russia's central bank, the latest in a global economic assault that sent the Russian economy reeling, its currency collapsing. Germany joining other Western nations sending weapons to help Ukraine. As Moscow is increasingly cut off from the rest of the world, concerns are growing over how President Vladimir Putin will react.
You don't want a madman backed into a corner with nothing to lose, especially if that madman has nuclear weapons.
Already, Putin has put his country's nuclear deterrent forces on high alert. President Biden refusing to respond in kind. The United Nations General Assembly holding its first emergency meeting in decades to condemn the Russian aggression and seek peace.
If Ukraine does not survive, we cannot be surprised if democracy fails next.
Civilian casualties are mounting, with reports of massive Russian shelling and Russian troops advancing toward the capital. Ukrainian forces defying expectations, holding their ground.
They have made it very difficult for the Russians to continue to move ahead.
Across the world, an outpouring of support. Americans gathering supplies for donations, pouring Russian vodka down the drain, standing and marching with the people of Ukraine. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Social media sites Facebook and Twitter removed disinformation accounts targeting Ukrainians. 2 anti-Ukrainian cover influence operations accounts were removed over the weekend. One of those operations, which is tied to Russia, was a propaganda campaign featuring a website pushing anti-Ukraine talking points. A Facebook spokesperson said it used computer-generated faces to bolster the credibility of fake columnists. The other operation has connections to Belarus and used hacked accounts to push similar anti-Ukraine disinformation. Facebook says it has taken down at least 40 profiles tied to the disinformation operations, and Twitter says it banned more than a dozen. 2 more companies are hitting Russia where it hurts over its invasion of Ukraine. Fedex and UPS have announced they would be halting delivery services to Russia and Ukraine. Both inbound and outbound services have been suspended to Ukraine, as well as deliveries to destinations in Russia. UPS has said that packages en route to Russia and Ukraine will be returned free of charge to the sender if possible.
Jury selection is set to begin today for the trial of a Texas man arrested in connection to the January 6th U.S. Capitol riot. Guy Wesley Ruffett is charged with invading the Capitol with a holstered handgun on his waist. He's also charged with interfering with police officers and threatening his children not to report him to authorities afterwards. Ruffett faces up to 20 years in prison for each count of obstruction and 10 years for entering with a firearm. The trial could set the tone for other riot cases. At least 200 other people have already pleaded guilty for their actions on January 6, 2021.
We experienced rain today, but how long will this rain last? We'll have the full breakdown in a few minutes.
You're watching Wuft-TV News.
Currently tracking those showers we saw today, moving eastward of Gainesville, giving us a break from the majority of that rain. As of right now, seeing those overcast skies with temperatures sitting at 57 degrees. Overall, seeing those north and northeasterly winds looks like a pretty gloomy Monday, if you ask me. Overall, on our satellite and radar, catching those clouds and rain just a little bit east of I-95 here in Jacksonville and Orlando as well. And that rain looking to stay just a little bit longer throughout Lake City and Gainesville along I-10 and I-75 throughout the evening and into the night. But hopefully by Tuesday morning, all of that rain should be clearing up. For our temperature changes, looks like we've seen a 21-degree temperature change here in Gainesville, making it a little bit cooler than what we saw yesterday with those summer-like highs in the 80s. So 16-degree difference in Ocala, 25-degree difference in Palatka, 18-degree difference in St. Augustine, and a 20-degree difference over in Jacksonville. And our winds looking to stay pretty persistent as well. Of course, 21 and 23 miles per hour in Jacksonville and St. Augustine, but here in Gainesville, looking at those winds around 16 miles per hour, 13 miles per hour for Ocala, and 11 for Palatka. And for our temperatures looking to be in the upper 50s, so 58 Gainesville, 54 Stark, 62 for Ocala. Overall, our hour by hour showing those cloudy skies are going to stay just a little bit longer, with that precipitation lasting a little bit longer throughout the evening, but looks like we should be in the lower 50s by the morning. And Tuesday morning, seeing those lower 50s all throughout north central Florida, 51 for Ocala, 52 Palatka, and 56 for St. Augustine. This week we should be warming up, so we should be seeing those highs in the mid 70s all over north central Florida. Now for our game, for our Florida and North Central Florida game in Jacksonville, we should be seeing those partly cloudy skies, but it should start to cool down throughout the evening. So when you're getting out of the game, you should be pretty okay as long as you bring a jacket with you. Wednesday, seeing those highs in the mid 70s, and overall, that 6-day outlook showing that warming trend with those sunny skies overall. Back to the desk.
It was quite the busy weekend for Gator fans.
It sure was. Gymnastics and women's basketball played their last home games of the season. That is not the only news for the women's basketball team, though. We'll hear more about Gators coach Kelly Ray Finley after the break.
You're watching Wuft-TV News.
Welcome to sports. I'm Parker Welch. It's been a busy weekend for the Gators. Florida women's basketball finished out their regular season play at home in a tough battle with Missouri, but ultimately fell short at 78-73. On the offense, Jordan Merritt led the way with 23 points in the second half. Kiara Smith also put up double digits with 15 points. The game celebrated the seniors of the team. The Gators will head into the SEC Conference Tournament as the number 5 seed and will begin play on Thursday. Head coach Kelly Rae Finley spoke on what the senior class has meant to the program.
All of our support, the support of Gator Nation, they have, I think like they said at the loudspeaker, this senior class will go down as one of the best senior classes to help really rejuvenate our program and take us to places that we hadn't been in a long time.
In breaking news, Kelly Rae Finley has officially been hired by the Gators to stay as the head coach for the program. Number 3 Gators Gymnastics closed out on their home action on a high note by defeating number 2 Oklahoma on Friday. 8 seniors were celebrated in front of a sold-out arena Friday night. Trinity Thomas put herself on the leaderboard with a perfect score on the floor exercise to make for a total of 5 in the season. The beam was also won by Thomas, who scored a near-perfect 9.975. Thomas spoke on her time as a Florida athlete.
This team, Jenny, all of my coaches, my girls, just a whole family, and I just feel so blessed because it was a decision that took me a long time to make, and I've never regretted it a day in my life, and I am so happy that I chose the University of Florida.
The number 4 Gator Softball remains undefeated at 16-0 with wins over UCF and James Madison on Sunday to close out the Knights Classic. Through the 2 games, the Gators batted an average of .344 and combined for 16 RBI. On the leaderboard is Hannah Adams, who went 5-8 with 2 home runs, and then Katie Keisler, who went 4 for 6 at the plate. In the Circle, 5th-year senior Natalie Lugo registered a season high of 9 strikeouts in her win against JMU through 6 innings of work. The Gators will be back at home this Wednesday to face Southern Mississippi. Florida baseball grabbed their first series sweep of the season after defeating Georgia State at home. The number 15 Gators had a big day at the plate. Colby Halter led the way, going 4 for 6 with a home run and 3 RBI. Then Judd Fabian grabbed his first homer of the season to give the Gators the lead in the 5th. The Gators combined for 17 hits as a team on the day. On the mound, Timmy Manning struck out 6 through his 4 innings and allowed only 1 earned run. Catcher BT Riopel spoke on the work of his pitchers.
Well, I'd say to start off, it's pretty remarkable how talented all of them are. And, it's not easy to come in any park, but especially in your own park with 6,000 people, whatnot, to come in and throw strikes at a very high level. They've come in, done a very good job, and I applaud them for it. And I'm just here to kind of pat them on the butt and move forward.
Next up, the Gators will travel to Jacksonville to take on UNF tomorrow. The MLB is still in its lockout as of right now. If the league and the players cannot reach an agreement on terms by midnight tonight, regular season games will start to be canceled. That would also mean that players would not receive their full salary. That's your local sports news. Now back to Julia for one more look at the weather.
So for our Tuesday, starting in the 60s for our mid-morning, but looks like we should be warming up with partly cloudy skies overall. On to our 6-day outlook, seeing that warming trend all throughout the week. Looks like that rain will dissipate, giving us a sunny rest of our week. Back to the desk.
Thanks, Julia. BBC World News is next, and the PBS NewsHour is coming up at 7.
But your Florida news is always on at WUFT.org. Have a good night.